Okay, my name is Evan. I'm here with the Kern County Law Library for another in a series of videos that we're uploading to our website for informational purposes for members of the Kern County community at large. This one on the subject of how to prepare a traffic motion. So one of the more common questions that we get at the Kern County Law Library is, in some form or another, I had a traffic citation, I neglected to take traffic school, I would like to get the matter reopened so that I can request the ability to take traffic school and get a point off of my driving record. So if that is the case for you, this video is being provided for informational purposes. So now is an opportune time for me to stop and say that this video is not intended to be interpreted as legal advice to the viewing audience. Instead, this should be interpreted only as a supplement to your research on the subject of how you can reopen your traffic matter. We're going to be focusing on the procedural side of things today, basically the steps that you follow if you want to get your traffic matter back before the court. If you want to research your particular case, you can use the materials at the law library, but this is just going to be for purely informational and demonstrative purposes with respect to the procedures that you are going to follow when you want to reopen a traffic matter. So first things first, if you go to the Kern County Law Library's webpage, you will find right here, kclawlib.org. On our self-help tab on the home screen, we have motion to reopen a traffic case. So that's where we're going to be going today to retrieve the materials that we need. So just to be clear, there are many courts in Kern County that hear traffic matters. So you'll have to make sure that you find the proper one for your purpose. So once you have figured out which was the traffic court that originally heard your matter, you're going to want to either take a moment and review the written instructions here, which are going to include all of the things I'm going to go over today, or you're going to want to follow along with this video to get a grip on the steps that you're going to take in order to get the motion prepared, served, and filed so that you can have your day in traffic court. So on this page, you have the traffic motions for Kern County. These are all going to be templates that you can use in order to customize and make your own traffic motions. So when you download this, you're going to have in the zip drive a bit of editable pleading paper for all of the different traffic courts in Kern County. So just because it is the most commonly used one, because it represents the biggest area in Kern County, we're going to go with the downtown Bakersfield Traffic Court. So be sure that if your case is in Delano, if it's in Lamont, wherever, pick the correct pleading paper for your purpose. But today we're just going on the assumption, like most people, this is in the downtown Bakersfield Traffic Court. So first things first, you want to make sure that the document that you download retains this format. It has to have the numbers down the side. It has to look like this. And if it cannot be downloaded on your computer, please visit the Kern County Law Library's website and book an appointment to come in and use our computer terminals. You can do all of this in the library too on an appointment basis. So once you've got your template here prepared for editing, a lot of this is going to be information that you just happen to have off the top of your head. Most of it is going to be your contact information and the reason that you want the case reopened. But there are some things that are going to be a bit more technical, so we're going to go over them now. So we're going to do this in a systematic way so that we don't leave anything unedited on the page. So take it just like you would anything else, top to bottom and thoroughly. So anything on the templates that you have on the Kern County Law Library website that is posted in bold, it's going to need to be edited carefully in order to make it match the facts of just your case. So starting with the easy stuff, we're going to do all your contact info in the top left-hand corner of the pleading. So this is a fictitious example, so I'm just going to use an obviously fake name so that you are not tempted to just follow along and copy word for word. But basically, if you're preparing a traffic motion for yourself, you're just going to follow the steps like you're seeing here. So we've got John Doe at 123 Fake Street, Bakersfield, California, 93310, fake zip code. Just to underscore that this is all fictitious, obviously fake phone number, and we're going to do John Doe at fakemail.com. So all of the contact information has been filled in, so step one is done. So next, you're taking your name and you're putting it in where it says your name here. So you're going to remove the brackets and the text, and it's going to be John Doe. Next up, you're going to find your ticket number. So if you have your ticket, that's going to be the easiest place to find it. It's just going to be the citation number. Usually it is going to start with a letter, then have a series of numbers. If you cannot get your citation number, you can always contact the clerks of the traffic court where your case was originally heard, give them your information, your first and last name, date of birth, and so on, and they should be able to provide you a citation number. But ideally, you'll have your ticket or at least a record that has your citation number, and you're going to fill it in here. So just for the sake of illustration, we're putting in K1234567. Obviously, that will not be your citation number, so be sure that you find it and list it accurately. It's like your case number in any other court case. So next, this part is going to require some planning, and we're going to go over what it means to serve the district attorney a copy of this motion in just a few minutes, but just make sure that you are ready to plan ahead for this stage, because you have to give the district attorney notice, or in other words, you have to give them a heads up of at least 10 court days after the time that you think you'll have them served and your documents filed. So I know that might be a little bit abstract for you, so let me try to demonstrate what I mean. So a court day is basically like a business day. Court day is any day that court is in session, so weekends don't count, court holidays don't count. So if you don't think that you're going to be totally confident in calculating court days, let's go ahead and use a tool that can reduce the uncertainty there. So we're going to go to this right here, the court date calculator from the Superior Court of Los Angeles. So when you go to the Superior Court of Los Angeles's court date calculator, as it states on here, this is essentially an imperfect tool, as are all tools, but it is a very handy guide when it comes to picking out your court date. So let's say that we're preparing this on March 4th, 2022, because that is what I am doing after all. So we're going to type in 10 court dates. So that way we can figure out what is the very bare minimum that I can calculate for the number of days notice to provide. So it's telling me that 10 court days from today is going to be Friday, the 18th of March. So notice how it's not counting the weekends as part of this calculation, but I want to make sure it's clear that 10 court days notice is the bare minimum that must be provided. It is not a bullseye that you have to hit. So if it's going to work better for your schedule, if you need more time to arrange to be off work so that you can actually attend your court hearing, you can set your hearing date further out. So we're just going to go on the assumption that we're not going to go for the bare minimum number of days notice. I want to go ahead and actually have somebody serve this on the district attorney for me by mail, let's say, for instance. So that's going to lead to a special rule that you have to add an additional 5 calendar days in order to schedule your motion properly, so it has time for the mail to travel to the district attorney. So we're going to go ahead and say that even though from today until the 18th is 10 court days, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to add 5 calendar days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes us to March 23rd. And because I am someone who plays it super safe, I'm going to go ahead and say a full week after that is going to be the week that I put, or the day that I put down for my hearing date. So we have to make sure that that's a day that the traffic calendar is heard in that court. So we'll go back to our pleading, and for all of these traffic motions, we put in the schedule that that court keeps for its traffic motions. So it says right here that at downtown Bakersfield, they hear traffic motions Monday to Friday, which means that our Wednesday is going to work for us. So we're going to put down for our date here, March 30th, 2022. So we notice how the time and the department are not in bold. That's because those are not optional. That is the time that they hear these motions. So in other words, you don't get to choose the time or the department. The date is up to you to pick. So we picked our date, and now there's only one thing left to do for our entire motion, aside from getting it printed and signed and everything. As far as writing our motion, we just have to do the points and authorities. So here I have to pause again and just double down on the point that I am not doing this for you to copy and paste, so to speak. I am just making sure that you see that the points and authorities does not expect any specific language. You're just asking the court for something in this spot. So in the points and authorities, you're just going to explain to the court what you are looking for as plainly as possible. So I'm going to put something in here that reflects the most common use of this form, but I do not want you to think this is the perfect way to phrase it. You should phrase it in whatever way you think best conveys your point to the court. So please do not use this as an example that you just take word for word. This is simply for the sake of illustration. So in my points and authorities, I'm going to assume that just like many people, I am looking to have the ability to take traffic school so that I can get a point off my record. So I'm just going to write, I missed my chance to take traffic school and would like to reopen my case so I can request permission to take traffic school and get my point off my record. So it's an imperfect statement, but I think it's fairly clear. I missed my chance to take traffic school, want my case reopened so I can request permission to take traffic school and get the point off my record. So you're just trying to phrase it as clearly and plainly as possible. You do not need to sound like a law school professor in this section in order to fill out the form. You just need to make it very clear what you're requesting from the court. So it may not be that you want to take traffic school. There are other reasons to fill out a traffic motion. So please, again, don't think that this is the one correct way to fill out the form. Finally, we're going to fill in a date and a signature. You can do that by hand once you print off the form. So let's suppose that we print off this form, I date it, I sign it, and we are now ready to make copies and move on to the next step. So this is something that I have put together a little slideshow for, just to walk you through the next steps here, because it is important to note that in order to do this properly, you can't just go drop this off with the court. Someone else needs a copy. So we're going to talk about that right now. So we're going on to a presentation here that is just titled, How do I serve and file my paperwork? So it's going to look a little something like this. We're going to go over who gets a copy of the traffic motion, what you do after they are served, and if there's anything else that you should know. So step one here is going to be establishing who gets a copy. So the district attorney needs a copy of your traffic motion before you file your original motion with the court. Now let's pause for a moment so we can get that very clear here. The original motion is the one that you first print and sign yourself with pen. Everything else is a copy. So from now on, when I say your original, I mean the one that you actually filled out, printed, signed, and dated yourself. Everything else, all the photocopies that you run, when I say copy, that's what I'm talking about. I mean that you have one original. That's the one that you created and signed. Everything else is a copy. So keep that in mind as we move through the presentation, because I'll be talking about your original motion and copies here in just a moment. So this is really important. You serve your paperwork before you file it with the court. I know that sounds kind of backwards, like you would file it with the court and then serve it, but in order to file it properly, before you file your motion, the DA must be served, or in other words, delivered a photocopy of the motion. So you have options on how to get them your photocopies of the document. So option one is counter service. So the district attorney accepts counter service again. This was disrupted during the height of the pandemic, but they are again accepting counter service, which means that you or someone else can visit the counters at their office in downtown Bakersfield at 1215 Truxton Avenue on the 4th floor and hand them photocopies of your motion. They will stamp your original motion, and that will show that they received their copy. So if the DA stamps your original motion, you are done filling out forms. You have officially done all the paperwork you need to. The stamps will show the court the DA received their photocopy. So if for some reason you are unable to do that, you have a second option, which is to have someone else serve the forms for you in another manner. So if you choose not to use counter service, or if you can't, if you're in a different county and the only day you're going to be in Kern County is the day that you schedule for your hearing, that's okay too. You can have someone other than you who is 18 plus serve, again, that means deliver copies of your paperwork to the district attorney. So there are several methods of service which can be used for this. And just to be clear, the same web page where I was showing you where to find your sample motion and all the other information, the instructions, everything to do with your traffic motion, the DA's service information can be found on this web page. So they do prefer service by fax or by email, but you have multiple ways to get them a copy of your motion. Now, this is a reminder, if you used counter service, the stamp that the DA put on your original motion is your proof to the court they got their copy. So you don't need one of these forms. But if you use another method of service, your server will need to fill out a form that's called a proof of service to tell the court how the DA was delivered their copy. So the DA does not need a proof of service. The proof of service is just for the court. The DA only needs a copy of your motion, but the court is also going to need a proof of service so that they have proof that service was performed, or they will not file your motion. They need to know the DA was served a copy before they can file your paperwork. So after your server has completed service, they should fill in the information on the proof of service so that the court knows by which method the DA got their copy of your motion, on what day, and from whom. So in this presentation, we're going to show you how to fill out a proof of service by mail. And we're doing that again because if your photocopies are served by mail, you need to schedule your hearing date 5 additional days out so the mail has time to arrive. So if your server uses a different method of service, be sure to look on the California Superior Court website for the right proof of service. So this is what it looks like when you have a proof of service by first class mail. And some people think that means certified mail. It does not. It just means that you're using the US Postal Service. So straight in your mailbox is okay. And just a couple of notes and reminders on proof of service before I show you what it looks like to fill one out. So remember, if your server gives the DA their motion by mail, you should add 5 days to the 10 court days that you count out for scheduling your hearing. So the DA has time for the US Postal Service to get their copies to them. Again, that's 5 calendar days that you're going to add to the 10 court days when you pick your hearing date. So next, you're going to file the proof of service with the court along with your original motion. The DA just gets a copy of your original motion. Now, your server should be someone else over the age of 18, anyone. And it's neighbors, friends, family, acquaintances. They just have to be over the age of 18 and not the defendant in the case. So we are almost done with the instruction part here, and that's out. So after you fill out your motion, that means also filling in that date for the hearing, you have a copy of it served on the DA, then you must file your original motion, and if you don't use counter service, you have to do a proof of service with the appropriate court. So that means wherever your traffic matter was originally heard, that's the appropriate court. So a quick note on filing your documents before I show you what a proof of service looks like. So the best thing you can do to confirm how to file your documents is to contact the traffic division where you need to file and ask them how to do it. The clerks are there to help you with this exact topic, so they should be able to explain it, but everybody can always just visit the courthouse that they need to file their documents in and file it in the filing drop box. They can also file your documents that you mail in. So both of those are always going to be acceptable, but you can always contact the clerks of the traffic court if you have any questions on how to file your paperwork. Now, finally, you want to attend your hearing. So go to your hearing on the date you scheduled it, unless you're represented by an attorney who specifically tells you that you do not have to go. So don't pick a date for your hearing that you can't arrange well in advance to have available, because even though the hearing time may state 9:30 a.m., you should be prepared to spend more time at the court. So this is really going to require you to plan ahead, make sure that you set aside adequate time to go to this hearing and be there if the court has any questions of you during your hearing. Now, as a last step here, I want to go ahead and show you what a proof of service by first class mail looks like. Before we get into that, I'm going to show you back on our web page that the district attorney's service information can be found on this website. You download that. And if you have any other court in Kern County that you want to serve the paperwork on, you should have adequate and up-to-date information for how to serve them right here. So just for the sake of demonstration, since we're doing the downtown Bakersfield traffic court for this traffic motion, we're going to use this contact information for our proof of service. So keep in mind, this is on the assumption that maybe you're out of the county, maybe you're even a couple 100 miles away, you're up in Sacramento or something, and you're only going to be traveling to Bakersfield the day of your hearing. So maybe you just want to mail a copy of your motion to the DA and then file it with the court. So in that case, remember that with our motion, we have set the hearing well down the line. So we're going to give time for the mail to travel there. And now we're going to go to this link on the traffic court webpage, because this is going to take us to the judicial branch's website where we can download a proof of service form. And if you ever need one, you can also ask the law library for a copy. But if you want to just find it yourself, we're doing the proof of service by first class mail. So bear with me, you're able to type into these, but occasionally it can be a little clunky on the PDFs. But basically what we're doing is filling in all of the information on this form in the top left with our contact info that we put on our traffic motion. So we are again John Doe from 123 Fake Street, Bakersfield, California, 93310. And we've got a telephone number of 661-123-4567. And it was John Doe at fakemail.com. So when you're doing your own motion, you are an attorney for yourself. Everyone has an attorney. It's either someone you hire that is licensed to practice law, or it is yourself. So if you're doing your own paperwork, you can write yourself. And now here we're going to write Superior Court of California, County of Kern. If you happen to be watching this video and you're doing a traffic motion in another county, please obviously don't put Kern, put yours, but we're going on the safe assumption that if you're watching this, you live in Kern County. So in the case of the traffic court for downtown Bakersfield, it's at 3131 Arrow Street, same for mailing, and it is Bakersfield, California, 93308. And the branch name, let's confirm, we have Traffic Division. So that is what we are going to write as the branch name. So Traffic Division. The plaintiff in any criminal matter, which even though it's a traffic case, it is technically a criminal matter, and it is the people of the state of California. And the defendant is John Doe. Finally, for the case number, K1234567, again, be sure to write in your actual citation number. Don't just write what I did. So now we go on to the rest of the form, which is just one page. And paragraph 1 here, it's just a statement that your server is over 18. And keep in mind that all of this is being said from the perspective of your server. If you notice, everything on this pretty much is in the past tense. On this date, I mailed from this city and state. So like I said, you're filling this out after the server mails this. So let's say that the server is a neighbor of John Doe. So we're going to say that she lives just down the street on Fake Street. So her residential address is 234 Fake Street, Bakersfield, California, 93310. And we're going to say that on the same date that the paperwork got printed and signed is the date that she mailed it off. So it was 3/4/2022. And of course, she just dropped it in the mailbox outside her home, which is going to be in Bakersfield, California. And right here, it says that she mailed the following documents. So you have to specify what was mailed. Paperwork doesn't cut it. You do have to be specific. So in this case, we are doing a motion to reopen traffic case. So in the next section, they are asking whether this is someone who just dropped a sealed envelope in the US Postal Service with the postage fully prepaid. So a not terribly helpful way of just saying, I dropped a stamped envelope in the mail. So if that describes how your server mailed it, they would check box A. If they happen to work in a law firm or some other business that has business practices that include like a regular routine for mail, then maybe they would put box B. Often, if you're just having a friend, neighbor, acquaintance, whomever do it on your behalf, and they're just dropping it in the mail at their home, you're probably looking at box A. You have to make the determination for yourself, but if it's someone who just did it as a favor and they just dropped it in the mail, A is correct. So the name of the person served in this case, Kern County District Attorney, and the address where the person was served, like we saw on the service information for the library website, 1215 Truxton Avenue, Bakersfield, California, 93301. So after that, your server is going to date this, and it's the date that they're signing it. So if they forgot to sign this the day that they filled it out, and they sign it the next day, they'll put that date. But we're just going to assume that the server here was a diligent helper and she signed it on the same day that she filled it out. We're going to say it was Jane Doe, and then she prints it and gives her signature here. Then you'll be ready to file this along with your traffic motion at the traffic court that is appropriate for you. So in this example, that's going to be at 3131 Arrow Street. But again, if your case was in Lamont, it's going to go to the Lamont courthouse. So keep in mind, again, this is only necessary if you don't use counter service. But if you are in a remote location, or if just for whatever reason you don't feel like making 2 trips downtown to drop off documents, you can have the district attorney served by mail, by email, by fax. The choice is yours. Just be sure to consult that information sheet about how to serve the district attorney before you file your paperwork. So again, just a quick recap. Once you filled out your paperwork, it has to be served on the district attorney, and then the original plus a proof of service, if necessary, needs to be filed with the traffic court. Then you need to attend your hearing. With that, if you have any questions, please feel free to either book an appointment to come visit the Kern County Law Library, or get in touch with us by visiting our website and finding our email and phone line, and shoot us a message whenever you need assistance.